In the sterile silence of a hospital room, a pair of eyes flutter open for the first time in 2 decades. James Hawthorne gasps, his throat dry and raspy, as if he's breathing for the first time. The harsh fluorescent lights above him flicker, momentarily plunging the room into darkness before buzzing back to life. Where am I?" James croaks, his voice barely above a whisper. He tries to lift his head, but his muscles refuse to cooperate. Panic begins to set in as he realizes he can barely move. Suddenly, a door swings open and a woman in a white coat rushes to his bedside. "Mr. Hawthorne, you're awake," she exclaims, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and excitement. "I'm Dr. Evelyn Reeves. How are you feeling?" James blinks rapidly, trying to focus on the doctor's face. I don't know. Everything feels wrong. How long have I been here?" Dr. Reeves hesitates, her expression softening. "James, I need you to stay calm. You've been in a coma for 20 years. 20 years? James shouts, his voice cracking. The heart monitor beside him begins to beep frantically. "That's impossible. I was just... As James struggles to remember what he was just doing, fragmented images flash through his mind. A laboratory, strange machinery, a face he doesn't recognize smiling at him from behind a glass partition. But as quickly as these visions appear, they vanish, leaving him even more confused. Dr. Reeves places a gentle hand on his arm. "It's going to be all right, James. I know this is a lot to process. We've been monitoring your brain activity for years, hoping for this moment. Your recovery is nothing short of miraculous." Over the next few days, James undergoes a battery of tests. His muscle atrophy is far less severe than it should be for someone who's been immobile for 2 decades. His cognitive functions are remarkably intact. It's as if his body has been in some sort of stasis, preserving him in time. As James regains his strength, he begins to notice odd inconsistencies in his surroundings. Sometimes, when he blinks, he swears he sees the walls of his hospital room flicker, like a faulty television signal. And in his dreams, he finds himself in that strange laboratory again, surrounded by computers and blinking lights. One afternoon, as Dr. Reeves is checking his vitals, James musters up the courage to ask, "Doctor, has my wife been to see me?" Dr. Reeves's smile falters for just a moment. "Of course, James. Sarah has been here every day since you woke up. She's just preparing herself. It's been a long time for her, you understand." James nods, but a nagging feeling of unease settles in his stomach. Why hasn't he seen her yet? And why does he have trouble remembering her face? Later that night, as James drifts off to sleep, he hears a faint whisper. "Wake up, James. None of this is real." He jolts awake, heart pounding. The room is pitch black, but in the corner, he sees a faint green glow. As his eyes adjust, he realizes it's coming from a symbol floating in midair, a triangle within a circle. But when he blinks, it's gone. The next morning, James is introduced to a physical therapist named Marcus Stern. There's something oddly familiar about Marcus, though James can't quite place it. As they work on rebuilding James's strength, Marcus says something that sends a chill down James's spine. "You're doing well, James. Much better than the others." "Others?" James asks, his brow furrowing. "What others?" Marcus's eyes widen slightly, as if he said something he shouldn't have. "Oh, other patients in similar situations. Don't worry about it." But James can't shake the feeling that there's more to Marcus's words than he's letting on. And why does he keep seeing that strange symbol everywhere he looks? As the days pass, James's strength returns at an astonishing rate. He's soon able to walk around the hospital floor, always under the watchful eye of Dr. Reeves or a nurse. But with his increasing mobility comes an intensifying sense that something is deeply wrong with his situation. One night, unable to sleep, James decides to explore the hospital. The corridors are eerily quiet, the fluorescent lights casting long shadows. As he turns a corner, he sees a figure at the end of the hallway, a woman with long dark hair. "Sarah?" he calls out, his heart racing. But as the figure turns, James realizes it's not his wife. It's not anyone at all. The woman has no face, just a blank expanse of skin where features should be. James stumbles backward, horrified, and blinks rapidly. When he opens his eyes again, the figure is gone. Shaken, James hurries back to his room, his mind reeling. What is happening to him? Is he losing his grip on reality, or is reality itself coming undone around him? The next morning, Dr. Reeves enters his room with a broad smile. James, I have wonderful news. Your wife is here to see you. James's heart leaps into his throat. After all this time, he'll finally see Sarah again. But as the door opens and a woman steps in, James feels a wave of confusion wash over him. The woman approaching his bed is undoubtedly beautiful, with kind eyes and a warm smile, but she's not the Sarah he remembers. This woman is older, with streaks of gray in her hair and lines around her eyes that weren't there before. James, she says, her voice choked with emotion. It's me. It's Sarah. James stares at her, his mind struggling to reconcile the image before him with the memories in his head. I don't understand, he stammers. Sarah takes his hand, her eyes brimming with tears. I know this must be so confusing for you, sweetheart, but it's been 20 years. I've aged, even if you haven't. As Sarah speaks, telling him about the life he's missed, their daughter's graduation, the birth of their grandchild, James feels a growing sense of disconnection. It's as if he's watching a movie of someone else's life. And all the while, that strange symbol flickers at the edge of his vision, there one moment and gone the next. Suddenly, James notices something odd about Sarah's hand. As she gestures while speaking, her fingers seem to phase through the bedrail, just for a split second. James blinks hard, convinced he must be seeing things. But the seed of doubt has been planted. That night, as James lies awake in his hospital bed, the whisper comes again, louder this time. Wake up, James. Break free. None of this is real. James sits up, his heart pounding. Who's there? He calls out into the darkness. But there's no response, only the faint hum of hospital equipment. As he settles back into bed, James makes a decision. Tomorrow, he'll demand answers. He'll confront Dr. Reeves, Marcus, Sarah, anyone who might know what's really going on. Because one thing is becoming increasingly clear to James Hawthorne. The world he's woken up to might be just as false as the dreams that haunt his sleep. As the sun rises on another day in this bewildering new reality, James steels himself for confrontation. He's determined to uncover the truth, no matter how unsettling it might be. When Dr. Reeves enters his room for the morning checkup, James wastes no time. Doctor, I need answers. Now. Dr. Reeves pauses, her clipboard hovering midair. Of course, James. What would you like to know? Everything, James says, his voice low and intense. Why do I keep seeing strange symbols? Why does the world sometimes glitch around me? And why can't I remember anything about my life before the coma? Dr. Reeves sighs, setting down her clipboard. James, I understand this is all very confusing. Your brain has been inactive for 2 decades. It's natural for there to be some anomalies in your perception. But James isn't buying it. No, this is more than that. I saw Sarah's hand pass through solid objects. Explain that. Dr. Reeves's face remains impassive, but James notices a bead of sweat forming on her brow. James, I assure you. Suddenly, the lights flicker, and for a split second, Dr. Reeves's face transforms into a mass of swirling code before snapping back to normal. James leaps from his bed, backing away in horror. What the hell are you? He screams. Before Dr. Reeves can respond, the door bursts open. Marcus rushes in, his eyes wide with alarm. James, you need to calm down. You're not ready for this yet. But James is beyond calming. He grabs a nearby tray and hurls it at the window. Instead of shattering, the glass ripples like water, distorting the view of the world outside. None of this is real, is it? James says, his voice trembling. We're in some kind of simulation? Marcus and Dr. Reeves exchange a look. Finally, Marcus nods. Yes, James, but it's not what you think. We're trying to protect you. Protect me from what? James demands. Before Marcus can answer, alarms begin blaring throughout the hospital. Red lights flash and a computerized voice announces, System instability detected, initiating emergency protocols. The world around them begins to warp and twist. The hospital walls melt away, revealing a vast network of pulsing circuits and data streams. James watches in awe and terror as the reality he thought he knew disintegrates before his eyes. We need to get him out of here, Dr. Reeves shouts to Marcus over the din of the alarms. His consciousness is rejecting the simulation. Marcus nods grimly. James, listen to me carefully. What you're about to experience will be intense, but you need to trust us. We're here to help you. Before James can protest, Marcus presses a small device to his temple. There's a sharp pain, and then darkness. When James regains consciousness, he finds himself in a sterile white room, reminiscent of the laboratory from his dreams. He's strapped to a chair, surrounded by blinking monitors and strange machinery. A figure approaches, a man in his 60s with steel gray hair and piercing blue eyes. "Welcome back to the land of the living, Mr. Hawthorne," he says, his voice cool and clinical. "I'm Dr. Victor Kronos. I believe we have much to discuss." Over the next few hours, Dr. Kronos explains the truth to James. The year is not 2024, as he had been led to believe in the hospital simulation, but 2084. 60 years ago, James volunteered for an experimental program designed to preserve human consciousness in a virtual environment. "But why?" James interrupts. "Why would I agree to this?" Dr. Kronos' expression softens slightly. "Because, Mr. Hawthorne, you were dying, a rare, aggressive form of brain cancer. The simulation was your only chance at survival." As the doctor speaks, fragmented memories begin to surface in James's mind. The fear of impending death, the desperate hope offered by Dr. Kronos and his team, the tearful goodbye to Sarah, his real Sarah, as he prepared to enter the simulation. "The technology was in its infancy then," Dr. Kronos continues. "We could preserve your consciousness, but we couldn't risk exposing you to the complexities of the real world. So we created a simulated environment where you could wake up from your coma and gradually acclimate to consciousness again." James's mind reels as he tries to process this information. But why now? Why wake me up after all this time? Dr. Kronos smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. "Because, Mr. Hawthorne, we've finally perfected the technology. You're not just a consciousness in a machine anymore. We've grown you a new body, a perfect replica of your original form, but without the cancer that was killing you." James looks down at his hands in wonder. They look the same as they always have, but knowing they're newly grown adds a surreal quality to his existence. "What about Sarah? My family?" James asks, his voice catching. Dr. Kronos' face falls. "I'm sorry, Mr. Hawthorne. They've been gone for many years now, but we have all their memories, their personalities stored in our databases. We can recreate them for you in the simulation if you'd like." James feels a wave of grief wash over him. Everything he knew, everyone he loved, gone. And yet, he's been given a second chance at life. But at what cost? As James grapples with his new reality, he begins to notice things about this real world that don't quite add up. The way people move with an almost robotic precision. The lack of windows or any view of the outside world. And that symbol, the triangle within a circle, he spots it etched into the corner of one of the monitors. Over the next few weeks, James undergoes a rigorous rehabilitation program to acclimate his new body to the real world. But all the while, doubts gnaw at him. Is this truly reality, or just another layer of simulation? He befriends a nurse named Elena, who seems more human than the other staff. One day, as she's checking his vitals, James decides to confide in her. "Elena, do you ever feel like none of this is real?" he asks hesitantly. Elena freezes for a moment, then leans in close. "Meet me in the East Corridor at midnight," she whispers. "There's something you need to see." That night, heart pounding, James sneaks out of his room. He finds Elena waiting for him, her face pale with fear and determination. "James, you're right to have doubts," she says in a hushed voice. "This isn't the real world. It's just another simulation, a more advanced one." "But why?" James asks, frustration and confusion warring within him. "What's the point of all this deception?" Elena takes a deep breath. "The truth is, humanity as we knew it is gone. Earth became uninhabitable decades ago. The last survivors uploaded their consciousness into this vast network of simulations. We're all that's left." James feels the floor sway beneath him as the implications of Elena's words sink in. "So there's no real world to go back to? This is all there is?" Elena nods solemnly, "But some of us believe there might be a way out, a way to transfer our consciousness to new, synthetic bodies that could survive in the real world. We've been working in secret, right under Kronos' nose." As Elena speaks, alarms begin to blare. Red lights flash, and that computerized voice returns. "Unauthorized data access detected. Security breach in Sector 7. "They found us out," Elena gasps. She grabs James's hand. "Quick, we need to get to the central hub. It's our only chance." As they race through the twisting corridors, reality itself seems to unravel around them. Walls flicker and dissolve, revealing glimpses of other simulations, countless lives being lived out in artificial worlds. They burst into a massive chamber filled with rows upon rows of sleek black pods. In the center stands a towering structure that pulses with energy, the central hub of the entire simulation network. Dr. Kronos' voice booms through hidden speakers. "Mr. Hawthorne, step away from the console. You don't understand what you're doing." But James does understand. For the first time since he first woke up in that hospital bed, he feels like he's seeing clearly. He turns to Elena. "What do we do now?" Elena's eyes shine with a mixture of fear and hope. "We have a choice to make, James. We can stay here, in this artificial paradise where we're safe but not truly alive, or we can risk everything for a chance at real freedom." James looks around at the pulsing heart of the simulation. He thinks of Sarah, of the life he left behind, of the countless lives being lived out in digital dreams. Then he turns back to Elena, his decision made. "Let's do it," he says. "Let's find out what's really out there." Elena nods, a smile breaking across her face. She reaches for the central console, her fingers hovering over a glowing red button. "Ready?" James takes a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever comes next. "Ready." Together, they press the button. The world around them erupts in a cacophony of alarms and flashing lights. The very fabric of reality seems to tear apart. As the simulation crumbles around them, James feels a sensation of falling, of being unmade and remade. His last conscious thought is a mix of terror and exhilaration. What will I wake up to this time? The world explodes into a kaleidoscope of fractured realities. James feels his consciousness being stretched, compressed, torn apart, and reassembled. It's as if every neuron in his brain is firing simultaneously, creating a symphony of sensation and memory. Suddenly, everything goes dark. Then, a pinprick of light. James gasps, his eyes flying open. He finds himself lying on a cold metal floor, surrounded by sleek, futuristic technology. As his vision clears, he sees Elena beside him, her eyes wide with wonder and fear. Did we make it?" James whispers, his voice hoarse. Before Elena can answer, a booming voice fills the chamber. "Intruders detected in Sector 0, initiating containment protocols." Panels in the walls slide open, revealing robotic sentries with glowing red eyes. James and Elena scramble to their feet, adrenaline surging through their new synthetic bodies. "Run!" Elena shouts, grabbing James's hand. They sprint through a labyrinth of corridors, alarms blaring all around them. The world outside the facility is a blur of metal and neon, a cityscape unlike anything James has ever seen. As they run, James's mind races. Is this finally the real world? Or just another layer of simulation? The uncertainty is maddening, but there's no time to dwell on it now. They round a corner and find themselves face to face with Dr. Kronos, flanked by a squad of security drones. "Enough!" Kronos bellows, his face contorted with rage. "Do you have any idea what you've done? You've compromised the entire system." James stands his ground, fists clenched. "What system, Kronos? How many layers deep does this rabbit hole go?" Kronos' expression shifts from anger to something almost like pity. "Oh, James, you still don't understand, do you? There is no real world anymore. This," he gestures around them, "is all that's left. A network of interconnected simulations housing what remains of humanity's consciousness." Elena steps forward, her eyes blazing. "But it's not living, Kronos. It's just existing. We deserve more than that. We deserve the truth." Kronos shakes his head. "The truth? You want the truth? Fine. The Earth is dead, uninhabitable. We're on a space station orbiting a dying sun. These simulations are all that keep us sane, give us purpose." James feels the weight of this revelation crushing down on him. But something doesn't add up. If that's true, then why all the deception? Why not just tell us? A flicker of uncertainty crosses Kronos' face. Because. Suddenly, the walls around them begin to shimmer and dissolve. The security drones flicker out of existence. Even Kronos himself seems to waver, like a bad transmission. "No!" Kronos shouts, his form becoming less substantial by the second. "You don't know what you're doing. You'll destroy everything." James turns to Elena, his mind reeling. "What's happening?" Elena's eyes are wide with realization. "We're breaking through. This isn't just another simulation, James. It's the last simulation. The final firewall between us and whatever's truly out there." The world around them continues to disintegrate. James sees flashes of other realities. The hospital room where he first woke up, the sterile lab where Kronos explained his supposed rebirth, countless other scenarios that might have been real or might have been fabricated. Through it all, one constant remains, that symbol. The triangle within a circle. It pulses with an otherworldly energy, growing larger and more insistent. "Elena," James shouts over the cacophony of a reality coming undone. "What does that symbol mean?" Elena's face is a mask of determination and fear. "It's a key, James, a key to our true selves. Whatever happens next, remember who you are. Remember what's real." The symbol expands, engulfing everything around them. James feels his consciousness being pulled apart, reassembled, stretched across what feels like an infinity of possibilities. And then, silence. Absolute, perfect silence. James opens his eyes, blinking against a harsh white light. He's lying on some kind of table, surrounded by sleek, unfamiliar technology. As his vision clears, he sees other tables nearby, each occupied by a motionless figure. With a jolt, he recognizes Elena on the table next to him, and beyond her, row after row of similar tables, stretching as far as the eye can see. A gentle voice breaks the silence. "Welcome back, James Hawthorne. You've been in stasis for approximately 247 years. James turns his head to see a being unlike any he's encountered before. It's vaguely humanoid, but composed of swirling light and data streams. The triangle within a circle symbol pulses gently at its center. "Who? What are you?" James croaks, his voice rusty from centuries of disuse. The being's face shifts into something resembling a smile. "We are the caretakers, the guardians of what remains of humanity. And you, James Hawthorne, along with your fellow sleepers, are the last hope for your species." As James struggles to process this information, memories come flooding back. Not just of the simulations he's lived through, but of his true past, the catastrophe that forced humanity to flee Earth. The desperate plan to preserve a select few in stasis while the rest of humanity uploaded their consciousness into virtual worlds. "The simulations," James murmurs. "They were a test?" The being nods. "A crucible to prepare you for what lies ahead. Only those who could break free of the illusions, who could cling to their humanity even in the face of ultimate deception, would be fit to lead humanity into its next phase of existence." James turns to look at Elena, still motionless on her table. "Will she?" "She will awaken soon," the being assures him, "as will the others who pass the final test. Together, you will face the greatest challenge humanity has ever known." "Which is what exactly?" James asks, a mix of fear and anticipation churning in his gut. The being waves a hand, and a holographic display springs to life above them. James sees a vast starship, unlike anything he's ever imagined. "To find a new home," the being says simply, "to ensure the survival of your species among the stars." As the full weight of this responsibility settles on him, James feels a strange mix of terror and exhilaration. Everything he's been through, every joy, every sorrow, every moment of doubt and triumph has led to this moment. He turns back to the being, his jaw set with determination. "What do we do now?" The being's form shimmers, the triangle within circle symbol pulsing with renewed energy. "Now, James Hawthorne, you truly wake up, and the real adventure begins." As if on cue, the other stasis pods begin to hum with activity. James watches as Elena's eyes flutter open, confusion giving way to recognition as she meets his gaze. All around them, the last remnants of humanity are stirring, ready to face whatever challenges await them in the vast, unknown reaches of space. James takes a deep breath, feeling more alive than he has in centuries. Whatever comes next, he knows one thing for certain. This is no simulation. This is reality, in all its terrifying, exhilarating glory. And for the first time in a very, very long time, James Hawthorne smiles. As the last of the stasis pods hum to life, James finds himself surrounded by a sea of confused but determined faces. Each person here has fought their way through layers of deception, clinging to their humanity against all odds. They are the best of what remains of the human race, and the weight of their species' future rests squarely on their shoulders. Elena makes her way to James's side, her eyes shining with a mix of wonder and apprehension. "So," she says, her voice barely above a whisper, "this is really it? The true reality we've been fighting for?" James nods, taking her hand in his. "It seems so, and now we have the greatest challenge of all ahead of us." The being of light and data, the caretaker, addresses the awakening crowd. Its voice resonates not just in their ears, but in their very minds. Children of Earth, you stand at the precipice of a new era for humanity. The simulations you've endured were more than mere tests. They were crucibles, forging you into the leaders and pioneers your species needs to survive. Holographic displays spring to life around the vast chamber, showing images of the starship that will be their home and vessel. It's a marvel of technology, sleek and massive, capable of sustaining life for generations as it traverses the cosmos in search of a new home. This ship, the caretaker continues, is called the Phoenix, a fitting name, we believe, for humanity's rebirth from the ashes of its past. As the caretaker explains the mission ahead, the decades-long journey through uncharted space, the search for a habitable world, the challenges of rebuilding civilization from scratch, James feels a surge of emotions. Fear, certainly, at the enormity of the task before them, but also hope and a fierce determination. He turns to address his fellow survivors, his voice ringing out clear and strong. I know we're all overwhelmed. Everything we thought we knew has been turned upside down. But look around you. Each person here has proven their resilience, their ability to question reality and fight for the truth. That's exactly what we'll need out there. Elena steps up beside him, her voice joining his. We've all lived lifetimes in those simulations. We've loved, lost, struggled, and triumphed. Those experiences, even if they weren't real, have shaped us, made us stronger, and now we have the chance to use everything we've learned to secure a future for humanity. A murmur of agreement ripples through the crowd. James sees nods of determination, eyes glinting with purpose. They're ready for whatever comes next. The caretaker's form shimmers, the triangle within circle symbol pulsing with renewed energy. It is time, it announces. The Phoenix awaits its crew. Your journey begins now. As they prepare to board the ship that will be their home for the foreseeable future, James takes one last look at the vast chamber of stasis pods. It's a monument to what humanity has endured and what they've left behind. He feels a tug on his hand and turns to see Elena, her face set with determination. Ready for one last adventure? She asks, a hint of a smile playing at her lips. James squeezes her hand, feeling the synthetic skin that houses his reawakened consciousness. It's a reminder of how far they've come and how far they still have to go. More than ready, he replies. Let's go make history. As they step onto the Phoenix, leaving behind the last remnants of the world they once knew, James is struck by a profound realization. Every simulation, every false awakening, every moment of doubt and confusion, it was all leading to this. The true awakening, the real journey. The starship's engines rumble to life, a deep vibration that James feels in his very core. Through the viewing portals, he watches as the space station that has been humanity's sanctuary for centuries grows smaller, eventually disappearing into the vast expanse of space. Unknown challenges await them. Uncharted worlds, potentially hostile alien life, the ever-present risk of failure. But as James looks around at his fellow survivors, at Elena, at the faces filled with a mix of fear and excitement, he knows that whatever comes, they'll face it together. This is no simulation. This is no false awakening. This is reality in all its terrifying, exhilarating glory. And humanity's greatest adventure is just beginning. As our tale of awakening, deception, and ultimate truth comes to a close, we invite you, dear viewer, to reflect on your own journey. How many layers of reality do we navigate each day? What truths lie hidden beneath the surface of our own lives? If this story has sparked your imagination, challenged your perceptions, or simply entertained you, we urge you to take action. Subscribe to our channel to embark on more mind-bending adventures. Share this video with friends and family. After all, reality is always more intriguing when explored together. Remember, just as James and Elena fought to uncover the truth, your engagement helps us continue creating content that pushes the boundaries of storytelling. Every like, every share, every comment is a vote for more stories that make you question, wonder, and dream. So what do you say? Are you ready to wake up to new possibilities? To explore the deepest reaches of imagination? To be part of a community that dares to ask what if? The choice is yours. The next chapter awaits. All you have to do is click that subscribe button and join us on this incredible journey. After all, in the vast simulation of content that is the internet, your consciousness is the key to unlocking new worlds. Don't let this be just another fleeting moment in the endless stream of media. Make it count. Make it real. Subscribe now, and let's discover the truth together.